Dianda, given that 1 in 6 children in the local district live in poverty, would you support reinstating the earned income tax credit to help benefit families and children?
Yes, of course I would. I think that's the most key thing, to be able to help people, get them back into the society. They need that extra tax to be able to, they need the extra tax away from the burden that they're putting on them right now. I think that would be another thing to be able to pull people up, and that's what we have to do.
Yes, I absolutely would support reinstating it, and I mentioned that before. $4.6 million came out of District 38 with that tax. Or I should say with the elimination of that tax, $4.6 million was taken out of our district. If we're going to be supporting children, we have to support families. And this money wasn't going to people who had an exorbitant amount of money. It was people who had the need to get that tax credit. So we weren't taking it out of the hands of wealthy people. We were taking it out of the hands of the working class families up here. We were taking it out of the hands of women and children, single parents. So we need to lift people up. We need to restore that tax credit. We need to do equal pay for equal work. That's a big thing that would help out some families in this district. So there's a lot that we can do on the state level to support, but absolutely I would reinstate that tax, or that credit.
Given that 1 in 6 children in the local district live in poverty, would you support reinstating the earned income tax credit to help benefit families and children?
Yes, we're heading that way right now. What originally happened was, again, coming into office in 2010, we were in a dramatic situation with no revenue coming in to increase or improve the $1.4 billion deficit and everything else that went along with it. The tax credit we're talking about, though, so everybody understands, is not a situation where we were taking money from people. The issue with the tax credit was they were getting money that they normally wouldn't have gotten, but it was designed to help people, low income, I understand that, but it also was money that they were given. In other words, it wasn't they were paying taxes and we were giving them relief on that tax. They literally were getting money. And so we were trying to stabilize the state across the board. And that was the reason behind it. As the state's coming back, we're seeing our economy come back. Now's the time to start having these conversations and find out in those areas where we can help.
Okay, the next question will start with Mr. Casperson. What's your plan to fix Michigan's infrastructure needs?
Well, I think what you mean by that would probably be the gas tax. If I could be king for the day, what my proposal would be is that we eliminate the 6% sales tax, take it right off of gasoline, because right now that is our problem. Take it off, and I would replace it then with a wholesale percentage tax that would get us back to where we were as far as the amount of money right now, currently, that's being taxed. But every inch of it would be dedicated to our roads and our infrastructure, or Act 51, which means it would go through the formula. I would replace then the revenue loss from the 6% sales tax with a 1% increase in the sales tax and dedicate that money to education. The lion's share would be dedicated to education, and there would be a portion of it, or a small percentage of it, have to go to revenue sharing, because those would be the two things that would be lost by getting rid of the 6% sales tax. But then that would keep us competitive with our other states around us, and we would be dedicating money constitutionally to education, and then everybody would be sharing in that participation.
If we look at increasing sales tax, that has to go to the body, and I know you said if you were king for a day, but just so people know that, it would have to be a ballot initiative, and people would have to vote on that increase. It's really hard to say for me that I would want an increase on the gas tax at this point. You have people that are literally going to the gas station with $10 in their pocket, and they're trying to put gas in their car, and if we're making it less affordable for them to get to work and get around, adding that extra little bit of burden could make a huge impact. I had reviewed and still continue to review a lot of different reports, but one of them that I thought was interesting was talking about using a greater percentage of the current gas tax that's already coming in to go towards infrastructure costs. And then I think there are always cost-saving measures that we can do across the state. We can look at if we have overlapping services between our departments and have them streamline their services and utilize maybe those same services between a couple departments to save money and move that money in towards our infrastructure.
I guess I'd take a different approach to it first. I mean, we look at a system, that right now we're all putting in the system, it's about $3.2 billion. I think that we should take a look at how we're running the business of the state first. I think there's a lot more partnerships that can be done with the locals. I think that we got to start looking at how we operate our system, and I think that's the first start. I think that would be my first thing that we would want to do before we even take a look at putting one more dime worth of tax money into the system. I think that that's the problem that we have, is that a lot of times we think we can just throw more money into a situation to make it better. I think right now we got to take a look at a structure. I come out of MDOT, I was there for 10 years, and I think that at $3.2 billion, we can make some adjustments to make things a little bit better before we put any money back into the system.
Okay, our last question, we'll start with Mr. Germain. It's our 15th question that we've asked in an hour. So a hot topic is a bill on third grade retention, in which a student could not go on to fourth grade if he or she did not pass a state test in reading. Do you agree or disagree with the idea, and why?
Some of the folks, of course, weren't here. The reason I smiled is we just answered this question just hours ago, and I am opposed to that. I don't feel that we should be putting this kind of test into a third grader, or onto a third grader, to try to make it whether they're going to go on to fourth grade or not. What I had talked about is a family member of mine had a really difficult time reading. They were able to put him into a specialized program. They didn't have to hold him back. They didn't have to give him another test. You know, they knew that he had a problem, and they were able to figure out and identify what that problem was and work with it. If we simply give a test and then hold them back, what are we accomplishing? They're going to be there for another year, they're going to receive that test again, and are they going to be any further than they were before? That's the big question. So I'm opposed to that test, and when we were talking earlier, we were with superintendents and administrators, and they overwhelmingly afterwards talked to us and agreed with us on that.
Yes, I'm also definitely totally against that. I'm against the test. I think that it all has to be done locally. The school board, the teachers, the administrators, the parents know what these children need and how to identify them locally. We got to get back to that. And I think that we should not be looking at the situation that we should give another, more of an example out there. I want to give this example of it, is that I think that it also comes down to a charter school issue, that the more things that we put out there to make it more tough on our local communities and our local school boards to also be involved with that process, it gives just another opening for more charter schools to say, you know, down the road, they can do it better. They're not going to have this problem like the locals are having. So I'm definitely wanting to make sure people understand that.
I too would oppose that. To me, it's again a top-down approach. We're going to dictate policy like that and then force the issue. I think it's setting us up for absolute disaster. The other issue though with that is, and we talked about this earlier, I had talked to some teachers over in the Menominee area, and they were pretty clear with me that, because I asked, how can a student get past third grade and not know how to read? I don't get that. And I asked that because of the term we might have heard or remember, no child left behind, which is an unrealistic term to use something like that and then put that on education. And they told me the reason that kids are moving forward when maybe they shouldn't is mainly because parents are coming in and telling the teacher, you're not holding my child back. And so the parents are dictating that where the child's going to go. I think we got to get back to empowering the teacher. The teacher is the expert. And I can't imagine a teacher doing something like that on purpose. I would dare say it's probably the toughest decision they'd ever make. But I think we better start listening to our teachers. If they're telling us we got a problem here and we need to do something about it, and I'd like to see it go back there.
We've ended the question portion for the candidates, so each of you will be given 1 minute to make a closing statement. We'll start with you, Mr. Casperson. You can begin now. Oh. We had a timing issue. Okay. So what we've decided to do is add 15 seconds to the Senate candidates' closing statement. So you'll both get 15 seconds. So you will have 1 minute and 15 seconds in your closing statements. Mr. Casperson, you can begin.
Well, thank you again for putting this on. And thank you for coming out, taking your time to come out here and listen to us. I really appreciate that. I am running for the Senate seat. Again, I thank you for the opportunity that I've had over the last 4 years to represent you as your 38th Senator for the Upper Peninsula. It's been an honor. There's a long way to go yet. I believe we're moving in the right direction, and I would say I don't think the decisions have all been perfect. I certainly am not perfect. But the decisions I've made, I've tried to make based on what I believe is the right thing to do from the heart, and I don't ever have gone out intentionally tried to make a decision to get one side or the other. I think the tone that we've set in the Upper Peninsula has been different, and I've always tried to reach out. I've always tried to reach out to the other side, listen to what they've got to say, find some commonality, and I've been trying to govern that way. And I think I've shown some success doing that. So as we move forward, I'd like to keep going with the process that we put in place. I'd like to keep things moving. I'd like to see the opportunities that are in the Upper Peninsula to continue. And I'd like to be a part of the team in the Upper Peninsula to see that that happens. So thank you, and I'd ask for your support in November.
Okay, Mr. Germain, you will also have 1 minute and 15 seconds. You may begin.
Well, thank you again for coming out, especially on a rainy night like this, and to hear politics. You know, sometimes we're not the most exciting people in the world, but I appreciate you coming out and trying to hear our views, and if you have any questions, we will be here afterwards. Right now we're looking at a lot of different things, and I see this as supporting children, as supporting families as a whole, and that includes the grandparents in that family, the parents and those children. I want to see things like the senior pension tax reversed. I want to see the earned income tax credit returned. I want to see our child credit returned. There's a lot of things that I think we need to work on in this state, and if we're making children and education a priority, we need to step up our game. And that's one of the reasons why I got into this race. I feel that, again, it's a good way to give back to the Upper Peninsula, to the area that's given me so much. But our job down there is to defend those that don't have a voice. And that includes all those groups that I just spoke about, the children, the seniors, and the working class families. So if you have any questions for me, I am readily available to you. Please feel free to ask, and I ask for your support on November 4th. And again, thank you for being here tonight.
Okay, Mr. Dianda, you will have 1 minute. You may begin.
Okay, well, I want to thank everybody for coming out tonight in this weather, and I really want to thank you all for putting your trust in me and sending me down to Lansing to represent you, and that's what I do every day. I want to make sure that everybody understands out there that I vote for the 7 counties that I represent, and I'm there all the time to make sure that our interests are heard, and that we make sure that that everybody's heard, and we try to have the discussions all the time for the pros and the cons. But how, at the end of the day, I want to make sure that everybody realizes that at the end of the day, when it comes down to any type of vote or decision I make, it's for the 7 counties, all residents of our district. It's been a pleasure to serve you the last 2 years, and if you choose, I will serve you again for 2 more. I would appreciate your support and your vote. Thank you all.
Okay, we want to thank the candidates for your flexibility in combining the 2 offices in the first portion here, and for participating in our candidates forum this evening on children's issues. We're going to now take a 10-minute break and return with candidates for the District 1 and District 3 Houghton County Commissioners.